everyone. It's your favorite CEO, Miss Flo of Noir Neon Vibes, bringing you a new show, Neon Mic, where we allow conversations to glow. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Mrs. Ashley, or should I say Dr. Ashley Harris? Am I
Not
getting
doctor yet. I'm a doctorate student. So it's
Oh,
Miss
okay.
Ashley Harris, yes.
Miss Ashley Harris, who's from all the way in Texas. We're growing, we're being national now. How's everything down in Texas right now?
That's all right. It's hot. That's what it is. Yes.
Wait,
The
you
thing
you
is going
you
well.
haven't gotten any of the smoke right now? Not like on the East Coast, it's pretty clear.
No, it's very clear out here. A lot of
Oh,
rain lately, but besides that, the sky is pretty clear.
okay, so you're in good health. That's good to hear.
Yes.
We are it's very weird. It's almost like something out of a movie, but I think
Mhm.
we dealt with enough of that in the past 3 years.
Right. Right. Yes.
This is a great story because we managed to connect over Facebook. I had, posts promoting my YouTube channel and my website, and you just happened to comment, and we've been talking back and forth, and it's like I have to have you. You'll be my first guest of my new show, so this is very, very exciting.
Yes.
Yay!
Yes. When I saw what you were doing, I was like, this is going to be great. This is something that's definitely needed for the community, to give a voice to people who are marginalized, give a voice to people who feel like there's no one that understands them.
Right.
So, mhm.
And the one of the reasons why like I decided to build this platform and have shows like this is because as an educator, I would often appeal to our LGBTQ students and try my best to create a safe space.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about the LGBT community through them. So it's like I
Mhm.
teach them a skill and they're teaching me about their community. It's a fair exchange. So do want to continue the conversation. Of course, it is Pride Month, so happy Pride to
Happy
everyone.
Pride. Yes.
I see that
Yes.
you have the nice, lovely shirt right there representing the colors.
Yes. Actually, the Ash Tree, which is the organization that I formed that focuses on mental health, uh, exclusively neurodiversity and inclusivity. And so the Ash Tree colors are all colors, right? It encompasses everything. And so when Pride Month rolls around, I get all the best outfits. Throughout the rest of the year, I usually have to just find bright colors because I wear my brand, right? But
Right.
when Pride Month comes around, it's easy. It's real easy because every store usually has something for me to pick up.
Oh,
So
that's great. So you support the LGBTQ community like year round. It's not just,
yes,
you're not like one of the other corporations that just do it a month. You're like year round commitment.
yes, year-round support of the LGBTQ community and support of neurodiversity. That's what we do, right? It's not just a month of June thing at all. The reason that I formed the Ash Tree was actually to be able to give a safe space uh, in the realm of mental health for people who felt like they did not have professionals to speak with because they would be judged based on who they were, whether it's LGBTQ, whether it's neurodiversity, whether it's income, whether it's spiritual beliefs. People, when they go in for therapy, counseling, they want to be able to expose layers of themselves without judgment. And so I wanted to create a space for that because I realized that it was lacking even in a profession that endorses inclusivity.
And this, and then you are out in Texas. Which part of Texas are you in right now?
I'm in Houston.
Oh, Houston.
Uh-huh.
And how would you say in the city of Houston, Texas, in terms of the laws down there for the LGBT community, is it um somewhat fair or is it like very conservative right now?
Mm, the laws themselves are fair. The people are conservative. And
Mm,
so there's laws in place as a protection, but when you have the neighbors and the community and, so many people against what you believe, then that makes it complicated. So the law is not really a protection when you still have to live amongst hate.
And I can understand how that could be a challenge. I have some students whose some of their like I had some students where their families weren't as supportive, especially
Mm-hmm.
and I see it more within our trans youth,
Right,
especially those that are transitioning to be male.
right.
And it's very disheartening because like as a teacher, you have to remember to code switch. Like I would respect the students' gender identity and
Mm-hmm.
like call them by their new name. But if like I'm talking to the parent, I have to use, their dead name. And it's really a balancing act because you want to
Right.
make sure you have the relationship with the parent, because they're minors, but it's like I also have to think about like how this person may be feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And so it really is a juggling act. Like what
Mm-hmm.
ages do you specifically treat? Do you teach, sorry, not teach, Lord. But do you treat teenagers or is it more adults? Like what's your age range?
So I initially started in the field of mental health with adults, and then I became a teacher in the middle of my mental health training, and I was a special education teacher. And so when I became a teacher, my primary client became students, children, mostly teenagers that were in the foster care system.
Mm,
But as I transitioned into my own organization, I mainly treat teens and adults. And so I encountered, much like you mentioned, there's a lot of code switching that has to take place. And the parent may not be very accepting. And sometimes it's not that the parent is not accepting, it's just that the parent doesn't know how to properly communicate their feelings to the children. And the children don't always know how to properly communicate what they are experiencing because they're still trying to figure things out,
mm.
right? And so where I come in is I'm bridging the gap between the child and the parent to gain better understanding. And so that's one of my specialties that I actually help families with. I do not try to convince your child that they're not what they're saying they are, but
Mm.
I do help that child to understand and accept and appreciate and accept themselves, for who they are. And in doing that, they gain an authentic voice. And then once they have an authentic voice, they're better able to advocate for themselves in their household and in their community.
Oh, that is lovely. Since you in the school system, how would you say the administration is doing in terms of working with the LGBTQ community in terms of like support? Because like at my school, at our graduation, we recently decided to just do one color. In the
Mm-hmm.
past, it would be like gold for the girls and blue for the boys. But
Oh.
in order to, I guess, ensure everybody felt comfortable, they decided to
Mm-hmm.
do all blue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
like, one, how has your school administration been doing in terms of like supporting the LGBTQ community? Like, what steps have they taken to make sure that everybody feels comfortable?
Well, the last school that I was actually with, as of this uh, past year, starting this summer, I'm no longer going to be an educator, only a therapist. But the last school that I was with was very open and accepting and affirming because members of the administration were a part of the LGBTQ community. And that's especially important. Where there's representation, then it makes it a bit easier for students to feel that they're being affirmed. When there's no representation, there's no one to talk to, and so there's no one to give students a safe space so that they can voice their opinions or concerns. And so, even though we're in Texas, there's still people in the community that are professionals that are there to protect the children.
Mm. That's good because it's the same over here. We do have a number of staff members who are also part of the community and
Mhm.
also provide those safe spaces. Um, do they have PDs and training in terms of how to communicate or with our LGBT community? Any education on like pronouns, things like that?
There was training. This was a few years ago. I don't know if it was before COVID or after the COVID break, but it was somewhere around that time. But that training was about inclusivity and equity, right? And the I would say that the district, which is one of the largest districts in the state of Texas, the district really made an effort to bring the point home about and being inclusive and making sure that you address students correctly and being understanding and things like that. But I would say sitting in the audience of those PDs, hearing what other teachers had to say about the training was very disheartening.
Oh.
And so that's why I would say it's not so much of a administration thing. It's not so much of a law thing, but it's people's individual attitudes that can be so nasty towards others. And so that's something that we really need to start working on as individuals, you know, treating people the way we want to be treated, treating people fairly and being kind to others. Because the other laws are there to protect, right? So you
Hmm.
can't do anything like extremely hateful without consequence. But those microaggressions that students and people must face every day in the workplace, in the community, it still builds up and it plays against your mental well-being, you know? So there's no law against microaggression,
Mm.
you know? So that would be the main concern. There is no protection there. And so we have to create these safe spaces for people to come and feel protected.
I agree. I agree. And it's the same way on my end too. We just have some teachers that are very old school that may
Mm-hmm.
not understand like the new pronouns and how students feel about that. I have some like teachers that are aware and do their best, and you have some that are just like would be so shocked when they found out like the student was gay, and then just have this
Mm-hmm.
very overt over the top reaction that,
Right,
could put a
right.
student off. So, yeah, I totally get what you're saying. I've seen that myself as
Mm-hmm.
well. And we have to understand that words have power. What
Right,
we say, how we act around them can make
right.
a impacts our students, at such a young age. So we want to make sure that we're careful in terms of like how we interact with them. You all
Exactly.
And then you also said that your specialty is in neural diversity.
Neurodiversity.
Can you elaborate on that for me?
Sure. So neurodiversity is a term that may be relatively new to the Black community. So neurodiversity, what it basically means is that we accept and understand that people think differently, that they formulate ideas and process information differently, that our brain allows us all to have different abilities and functionalities, right? And accepting that we are all varied. We all come in different shapes and forms. We know that on the outside, right? But on the inside, our mind comes in all different shapes and forms as well. So that's what neurodiversity is about. Specifically, when you hear of neurodiversity, you hear of ADHD, which is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That's something that's actually a very common diagnosis for Black children, right? What we are coming to understand and realize is that it's not exclusive to children. It also affects adults. I myself am a lived experience therapist with ADHD. And so I use my platform to show people that yes, you may experience autism, you may experience ADHD, but you are still able to thrive if you gain skills and really get to know yourself. It does not mean you have to change yourself. It does not mean you have to act or pretend to be normal per se, but it means that if you have an understanding of who you are, you can advocate for yourself. So that's what neurodiversity is all about.
Got it. And does that also mean that they're part of the autism spectrum, or is that something different?
The autism spectrum is a part of neurodiversity. So there are several different disorders and diagnoses that will fall under the umbrella of neurodiversity. ADHD is one, autism is one, dyslexia, dyscalculia, Tourette syndrome. There's several different diagnoses that will fall under that particular umbrella. Autism is another one where people are coming to realize as adults that they may have been experiencing autism spectrum disorder throughout their entire lives and never received any care or service to assist them with that experience.
Mm, that's very interesting. And as an educator, well, I would say this, like we would get IEPs. So
Mm-hmm.
basically it's a form that will let us know that a student has some type of learning disorder.
Right.
But like when we're it tells you like the student may need like extra time or certain accommodations that they need to be successful in your class.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't necessarily get or as so far as like I've seen um how to or certain tools and tricks on teaching students with those learning disabilities, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Um, do you have that type of training at your school? You do? So like what are some
Well, not
oh,
necessarily at my school. I'm a special education teacher. I'm a certified special education teacher, and so my training came from my educational background as a special education teacher.
okay, but okay. So do you guys have PDs that give that like will help teachers come up with something in their lesson plan to help teach students that may be neurodivergent?
Yes, the district that I was working for, they provide professional development that assists teachers with uh, how to go about gaining the understanding of particular disorders. However, it's so individual, right? It's really based on the individual student, and so it's really up to the educator to hone in and see what's going on with that particular student, which is the reason for IEPs, which are individual educational plans, right? And so those IEPs, when teachers, if they actually read through them, they'll see what's going on with the student and how they can better help the student. A lot of times, what happens in the school system, however, is that teachers are given those folders maybe the day school starts, maybe the day before, right?
Hmm.
And you have a dozen kids with IEPs, and that's not including your kids that also have 504 plans, which are plans that are also educational plans that are individualized for students who may be on the autism spectrum or experiencing ADHD. And so you as a teacher, you're preparing for the school year, you're preparing your lessons, and then you receive these folders like the day before school starts. There's no real time to prepare.
Hmm.
And
Right, that's
so,
very true.
yeah. So I think that's what the main issue is. So it really is, it's up to the teacher to get to know the student in the classroom setting, get to know the strengths and weaknesses of the student and work with their abilities. Many of the students who may be on the spectrum or may have ADHD or may have dyscalculia or dyslexia, a lot of the times they get pulled out of the classroom for brief moments throughout the day where they can get a smaller group education from special education teachers and
Mm.
like yeah. So there's things in place. Is it enough? No, it's not enough. Is it the teacher's fault? I wouldn't say that either. Many of the teachers try to gain an understanding, work with the student, work with the parent. A lot of times the parent most of the time doesn't know what's actually going on with the student. They're just accepting what the school district says, what the professionals say, but they don't really have a clear understanding. Additionally, and something that's very important to understand is that when it comes to neurodiversity, many of the disorders that we see with neurodiversity are genetic, they're
Mm.
hereditary. And so they're carried on from generation to generation. Autism, ADHD, and the parents may be experiencing these things and they were never actually diagnosed. And so they don't have the assistance that they're supposed to have, and they have to go to work, right? And they don't know that they're supposed to have accommodations in the workplace. So they're stressed more, beyond the regular workday stress. They're stressed in their household environment because they don't know that they were supposed to be taught certain skills to cope. And so you see this cycle taking place generation after generation. So what's happening now is that adults are beginning to realize that these disorders are present and they're seeking treatment, they're seeking help, but it comes at a cost,
Mm.
which most of the time they cannot afford, right? And also, it's just simply not available a lot of times, especially within the Black community. It's not available with from people who look like us, who understand our background, our upbringing, and things of that nature. And so it can be really tough to get the assistance that's needed in the household between the parent, between the child, and just the community at large.
So we're dealing with a teacher shortage, and we're also dealing with a therapist shortage, specifically for our community.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Yes. And within our community, it becomes even more so of a shortage when it comes to neurodiversity.
Mm.
When it comes to marginalized communities, because you have intersectionality that takes place within the Black community. So yeah, you're Black, but then there's the LGBTQ factor, and then there's a neurodiversity factor. So can you imagine having all of that and trying to search for someone that understands all of those different aspects of who you are as a person? It's really hard to come by. And so that's why we have the Ash Tree. That's why I do what I do, because I'm here to say, hey, there's someone like you that's here, right? I'm right here. You can come and talk to me. I try to make it affordable for people to be able to access services. And if I am not able to provide services, I try to find someone who is able to assist wherever the person is.
Oh, that's awesome. So, like, how many people do you have on staff? Are you running the company, doing it by yourself, or do you have some help?
I have a little help right now. We're building. So it's not a lot of people on staff. And right now I'm only able to practice therapy in Texas. However, I do offer neurodiversity coaching, executive functioning coaching to assist people who are on the spectrum or who may be experiencing ADHD with different aspects of their lives for things to go smoother, for them to understand who they are and to try to build their lives around who they are instead of trying to change who they are.
Mm, that's great. Um, just real quick, can you tell us some of the signs uh for teachers to look out for somebody that may be neurodivergent? Because sometimes we have students that don't have IEPs, but
Mm-hmm.
something is up.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, what are some signs that we need to look out for?
That gut feeling, that intuition, where you know something is up, that's what you need to look out for. That's it right there, because it looks so different from person to person. More commonly, we think about the student that's hyperactive. That's what we know about ADHD: hyperactive, hyperactive. But ADHD does not always show up as somebody jumping around, fidgeting around, and things of that nature. The hyperactive part can actually show up only cognitively, right? So that may mean a young lady sitting in the classroom twirling her hair or tapping her nails on the desk, things of that nature. That's the hyperactivity. A student constantly staring out the window is the inattentive portion of ADHD. Not being able to follow along with the lesson before they catch the attention of something else. And so we want to look out for those things. But if your gut is telling you that something is different, something is going on here, hone in on that. Get to know the student and then ask for an assessment.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking with me today. I've definitely
Mhm.
learned a lot, and I hope that my viewers have taken so much from this conversation. It was a
Mhm.
pleasure meeting you, and I hope that the ash tree, I have to make sure I pronounce ash because then it'll
Yes.
be clicked. And so it's like, I hope the ash tree, like the branches will expand and you continue to help not just people in Houston, Texas, but hopefully it grows nationwide. I really hope that for you.
Thank
How
you.
can people find you?
Well, you can find me at theashtree.org. I have a blog where I talk about many different aspects of psychology as they relate to spirituality. And so if you want to hear more from me, you can find me there. You can also find me on TikTok where I talk about ADHD. I have a TikTok, my TikTok handle is ADH sometimes D. So that's ADH sometimes D. And actually, my initials are ADH. So, so you can
It's
find me
perfect.
there.
Yeah.
Yes, I just need to marry somebody last name D, right?
All right.
So yes, and it's
All
the
right.
ashtree.org.
All right. Thank you again for speaking with me. And I hope you guys just enjoyed the glow of this conversation. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.